they're going to strike. So it's working out really well, this drafting style for Simplicity. Let's see if it continues as we head into Game 3 between these two teams, currently tied, with Simplicity choosing Cursed Hollow.
And opting to take first pick as Team Freedom this go-round. You know, first pick is an interesting thing in North America. You know, I want to go through the stats deeper, but I was looking at first pick heroes in terms of like what's panning out, what's working, what's not working. In North America, if my stats are correct here, for heroes that have been played more than one game, obviously, in first pick, there's only one hero that's over 50% as first pick, and that's ETC, and he's only one game over. We have another one sitting at 50%. Everything else below that. So I want to look deeper into the numbers. First pick, I don't think has panned out for, I think, for what a lot of teams would expect so far, especially in our current meta, and it's something I want to dive deeper into. So Simplicity giving first pick over to Team Freedom, opting to take map pick and that second pick. I like that a lot right now. Yeah,
Cursed Hollow too is a nice choice for Simplicity to have. They have been favoring Cursed Hollow sort of throughout Part 1, especially in their first week, and they came in with an unorthodox Alexstrasza composition that worked for one of the series, then didn't quite work out for the next series, and then we didn't see them pick Cursed again until last week, but even when they did, it worked very well. They had a lot of control versus LFM. But that also revolved around, I believe, having the Tracer, and so far, that has just not been allowed, at least with the Malfurion, with Malfurion bans both games from Team Freedom. Yeah, Malfurion kind of the key component to making that work, but, you know, we've seen some Tassadar. Again, Zuna's Tracer stood out last week, and I'm sitting here, I'm looking at our draft from last game, and I realized Hanzo, 0. Yep. Now, no ban, no pick, and for a team that has Lutano and Hosty, who have played some of the most Hanzo games that we've had here in North America, that surprised me a little. Yeah, it makes me wonder if the priority there is down or if Team Freedom are diversifying a bit. You look at where both of these teams are sitting in standings, and in general, though Team Freedom, as we said, does need to win this series, it's more they just need to get the right amount of games won. And it might be that they're trying to make sure that they are diversified, being able to play enough different kind of strategies that don't always revolve around the Hanzo, or it might just be the priority has shifted, that it's dropped a bit, given the change-ups that we did see come in at level 7 for him. Now, Team Freedom, they're changing that ban. They're banning out Blaze. Let's see what Simplicity wants to take away from Freedom. Yeah, it's been all Genji all the time, and Lutano on Genji, pretty scary. We'll see if that does get let through. I think that, you know, they've got to consider that something might get through here. Maybe this is where they fear Hanzo might make it through. The Malthael obviously being second pick. Might be something, they just stick with Genji, as I say, with Malthael being first pick twice for Simplicity. Freedom, they go directly into Malfurion. So that's not just a denial of Simplicity with a Malfurion Tracer. That is Team Freedom have said Malfurion is the new scary hero. And Team Freedom has a tendency to do that. They often will ban in one area and then even pick in the other. They have been more of the Tyrael ETC control. In this instance, they're feeling more like Malfurion is the person to take away. Do you think there's a possibility they might try and go into? I don't think we've had Tracer yet. I thought Nasmus played it once, but I might be thinking back to BlizzCon. Probably back to BlizzCon, I believe. I mean, this is something that a lot of players keep in their back pocket. It's not an every game type of thing unless your name is Schwempy, maybe even Poip, but here in North America, it's more of a secondary option in terms of it's the right moment that you can go with that. The Malthael having high priority as ETC. And so far, I think both of those, despite the loss in Game 1, have actually been really good. And we've actually seen 2 ETC players so far. And one of them was Zuna, not even Arrow. Yeah. So there is a possibility that more melees get added to that for Simplicity, but now would be the time, I think, if we're expecting to see a Tracer pick. Otherwise, I think it's pretty likely that Tracer gets banned by Simplicity. Tracer there and a Greymane. So we'll see if it's Yoda or Lutano playing Tracer. Maybe we're going to get the, what would it be, 5th, 6th hero for Lutano. I think it's time. I think it's definitely time. Now, if you're on the side of Freedom, you have to look at an Uther ban. Uther is one of the best counters towards Tracer in terms of mitigating the pulse bomb damage. It gives you the frontline control. Greymane loses some of that burst damage because he's trying to rip through armor. Tracer, pulse bomb, dealing through armor. And it seems that Uther has kind of been that high priority. There's a possibility, because we have Hosty on the other team, we might even get ourselves a Medivh. Medivh is a possibility. Hanzo is still up, and if you're wanting one of those auto attack heroes who can try to contend with Tracer, build into Redemption, get that attack speed, try to just bring her down as she tries to jump in. Simplicity, though, you talked about an Uther ban for Team Freedom. Anything stand out to you that you would like to see Simplicity ban at this point? At this moment, is it a Warrior, perhaps?
It's a Warrior, perhaps, and I think in a weird way, I would say Diva right now. Just so you have that potential dive in. Full all-in dive, create as much disruption as you can. They ban out the Abathur, and again, when it comes to Freedom, you have to look at more of those less traditional picks, like the Diva, like the Abathur, because they'll work around them. They're very adept to playing around those, especially with Nasmus in there. So I think that that's a solid ban. It might end up just being something as simple as a Ragnaros, depending on what the picks are on Simplicity. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. But the Abathur pick, I think, is just solid. Keep things on an even ground, and that way you don't have to play anything too crazy.
Now, is it an Uther ban for Team Freedom? Very likely that it's some sort of, I was going to say support, if not the Uther, to come up with some other suggestions, some other ideas past that Uther, but Team Freedom are actually even considering and will take away the Hanzo from Hosty.
The Hanzo is good. Again, it doesn't have to be an Uther. Uther just does really well. Things that we could potentially see are maybe a false stat to keep the global control. Maybe play around that. You can barrel roll. But again, with Medivh always being in the picture, you have to consider that. Hosty, again, last year played a lot of these shielding style heroes, Medivh being one of them. So I think if you can find a way to possibly enable Azuna style and then keep Hosty back on that Medivh, there's that play that you can make. I don't know if they'll go with it, though.
Li Ming has also been a high priority for Simplicity on this map, or at least was the last time they played it. I wonder if it's still here. You know, she can get Force Armor to deal with some of those earlier pulse bombs. She has some mobility, and then get a support who can try to make sure to keep her alive. Material again, and Uther.
So I feel like they might just end up on Tychus.
Okay.
Tychus Neo Steel to deal with the pulse bomb. Obviously, you know, there's going to be the percentage base post level 10, but you have so much. You get the auto attacks if somebody comes in. Obviously, Tychus has a shorter auto attack range than most ranged heroes, but he can still deal well with people diving in. He can control that front line, survive a lot with the help of Uther, with the help of his own abilities. So there's a lot of ways to deal with this style. Greymane, of course, plays a more neutral ground, but into ETC and Uther is pretty scary because if he gets stun locked, he's in trouble.
Ragnaros, nice choice. So we get Nasmus's Ragnaros again, and finally the Murden for a pretty good stun lock composition. You've got the Stormbolt, you have Roots underneath. Post 10, you have Sulfurous Smash, and then either Pulse Bomb or go for the throat to help finish off those kills.
Yeah, Murden for Zugrug, he's actually been the most successful Murden player I think that we've had here in North America, sitting at 60% win rate, won 3 out of the 5 games. And when you dig deeper into North America with Murden, he's sitting at about a 41-42% win rate in North America, and globally, not too much better as he's sitting at the exact same rate, actually, 41.7. So the Murden success hasn't been there globally, and I think that picking him up at the later part of the draft, definitely a good thing, and Zugrug has had success thus far.
What is this final choice for Simplicity now? It is the Hosty hero, the glue for the rest of this melee composition, the one to protect. Last game, it was a Gul'dan with those 3 melees. This game, maybe something a little more aggressive given the Uther, the Divine Shield. Aha!
I like it.
The Cassia returns.
Cassia is good. You can get the blinds onto Tracer. Cassia a little bit more susceptible to that burst damage when it comes to the pulse bomb, because when she's moving, she has physical armor, and regardless, and that's only physical, so you don't get the spell armor. But with Uther back there, just raw armor, I think that definitely gives you the protection. You don't necessarily feel like you have to go into Tychus, maybe get a bit more value out of Cassia. So I like the adjustment there. It's a little bit riskier, but I think a much higher reward. And Uther there makes that risk incredibly low.
Now, Jayhao, what do you think about this first pick Malfurion and still drafting a very melee-heavy, very Death Volley style of composition into that?
It's not bad. I mean, again, what we saw last game, when you think about the shields, the prog rock completion, you have the global as well, as we saw used from Zuna and Malthael. kind of getting that extra range and things like that. It's not as condemning as I think that it looks originally, if you look at that, and then Uther getting that good wave of light, you know, potentially going into the wave of light build at level 1 to complement all of that melee. So I think that when it comes to the shielding, the healing, and the self-healing, probably going to be okay, but again, they still need that pop from Cassia.
Ask not what Hosty can do for you, Simplicity, but what you can do for Hosty. Give the old zoning to Hosty's Cassia, and he's going to deliver. Had the Thunderstroke at level 1 in game 1. Does he build into that again, or are we looking more to charge strikes?
I mean, the one thing that Malfurion does do better is whenever you land that Moonfire, you get the heal onto whoever you have your regrowth on. When there are 4 melee targets, that's potentially a lot of heals coming out from Collusion. So that is something to keep in mind. Cassia is sitting on that level 1, as is Uther. We do see the Thunderstroke. Uther going into Q build, though.
Silver Touch for some Holy Shock value. Try to add some more damage.
I got the Silver Touch.
Is that a real song?
Close enough.
All right. HGC heading up to top. We've got the Malthael versus Ragnaros solo lane in the bottom. We'll see who wants to join ETC up in the top lane from Team Freedom, or how they want to work out this laning setup for them.
You know, post 10 on the last map worked out really well for the stage dive factor. And again, they do have the only global. So we'll see if Simplicity can kind of recreate some of that magic. Hosty.
Oh, man. Is someone in there? Yes.
Wait, are you here? Am I here? Oh, hey.
Who's going to check first?
Like, it's just like funny because they creeped in there ever so slowly. And like, you think we should check across that other bush? Maybe they're there too? Like,
whenever that's the question, should we check and see if someone's hiding in this bush to kill us? The answer is always yes.
I saw Caldor face check last year during HGC. That did not go well for him. Trixler's like, what are you doing, man?
I'm not going to touch that one. We can all learn to not face check bushes a little bit more, especially when a Dahaka's involved like that.
Either way, Lutano and team pushing in mid. Simplicity, though, has a lot in terms of moving towards their camp. It takes multiple members of theirs. However, Greymane on the other side, trading out on his end, will receive a little bit of help from Malfurion.
Yep, Giants v Giants in the lanes, working on Bruisers v Bruisers in the mid, as both teams gear up to see if they can get any potential pushing done ahead of the starting of the tribute phases. Just making sure that they can get level 4 if nothing else, maybe get some free structural damage done, or manipulate the positioning of their opponents just slightly more. Looking at our level 4, is that Treant build?
Oh, yeah.
It is. Vengeful Roots.
Against that much melee, Gilly. If I'm playing, I'm picking that all day. When I see 4 melee on the other side, I'm like, I got a tree attacking here, and that thing is going to quest forever.
Yeah, you increase its damage based on how many heroes you hit with the Entangling Roots, so that's why Jhow is advocating that, as you should be able to get a lot of people trapped within those roots. And it's also in a bit of an easier way, too, or a way for Malfurion to be able to stall out at tribute points, similar to the Moonfire. It just provides another option for some poke.
Well, we have our first tribute phase here in the bottom. So far, Team Freedom has taken a little bit of a lead here with some of the structure damage they've been able to obtain through some of these camps. And things working out for them. Slight lead here. I think Simplicity recognizes that. They're going to keep ETC in the top and Cassie in the mid. We'll try and casually poke, but I think they found a little bit more than they wanted here.
Great heal that came in time to give the armor to keep Malthael alive through the Pulse Bomb initially. However, Team Freedom, in making sure that they could still collapse, got that kill, took out Malthael, and now are also going to get the first tribute of the game and are about a level ahead of Simplicity here on Simplicity's Battleground choice.
Things working good here in the early game for Freedom. We know they excel very well when they give themselves a lead. Nasmus going to get out of danger there. And that's the thing is, again, with the triple melee, the double warrior with the melee assassin that doesn't necessarily have that burst damage style, it's very difficult for them to contest things like this. Their range damage is 1. I mean, they can try and re-engage, try and clear through this, but in terms of ways to defend this, it's pretty slim. And right now, Team Freedom taking advantage of that.
Yeah, they just walked in, took the fort, and mostly are walking out. Yoda's going to clear out the minions. But because of that Tracer and Greymane combination, they have such great damage early on for Siege, and using the Molten Core in the mid so that Simplicity couldn't get anything there with their bruisers, it cleared that out, they got some damage there. Then in the bottom lane, getting a fort early on, that's Team Freedom's boss lane.
And it's an important part to consider right now because they're well on their way to 10, and the next tribute could easily appear before 10 for Simplicity.
Exactly.
So Simplicity is being very aggressive here. They can try and take the tribute. That will buy them time, or maybe look for a kill and catch up a little bit. They definitely cannot afford to just give this away for free.
Asmus, power slide is beautiful there. Still have the knockback too as the Fend was in, but Zuna took a lot of damage from the towers. They're turning around using the Molten Core for the sieging damage, the slow burn of the Ragnaros. Now Lutano's going back into channel. Simplicity are not in position for this, and Zugrug and friends, the rest of Team Freedom, doing their best to try to slow down so that Lutano can get that free channel pulse bomb.
Pulse bomb's there, enough armor to keep Zuna alive. He walks away, but the members of Simplicity are so low in terms of health that they have to back out. A full level lead in favor of Freedom. And this is a scary part for Simplicity. It's almost impossible for them to have level 10 by the next tribute phase. And as you said, potential boss play. I don't think Freedom has the tools to do that just yet, but they will definitely have 10. Definitely work towards snowballing with the first curse.
Jayhao, I was a little bit surprised. Did we see a knockback, a face mount from Zuna as he went in? He must have used it maybe on the minion wave.
I was waiting for it too. He definitely wanted to wait, get the blind, get the fend in from Hosty, especially because he went Pinball Wizard, where you have extra damage on your knockback after you slide on that target. So I was expecting the same thing as you. It might have been just off screen that he might have gotten him into position at that point, but definitely did not have that slide.
Yeah, and that is frustrating because he took a bunch of damage from the power slide from that, which meant he was walking back out. The poke was great from Nasmus because he got back into the Molten Core position. And from there, Simplicity were very far away from the tribute. They took more poke damage trying to get back to the tribute. And it just was all for naught. And now Team Freedom, they're setting up for a possible snowball, though Simplicity are doing their best to try to avoid that. The tribute has been channeled. Simplicity do not have heroic abilities. They're going to try to get the boss from this top lane, but Team Freedom are just going for it. They're just going straight bot. They don't even care about the boss.
They have Greymane. You know that the structures can't hurt you. Yoda, one of the reasons why you see him kind of cleaving the middle there, and teams will focus that, is because it gives you vision beyond the wall. You're not worried about the threat of that tower at the moment, so sometimes you'll see a little bit more priority on getting that. It gives you vision beyond the wall, knowing if somebody's standing there besides the abilities. Hosty's going to be okay, but this is going to be an early keep going down. They got to be careful. This could easily be more. No pulse bomb as a threat, though, but he's halfway towards the next one.
Especially if they had killed Hosty there. Hosty is the primary range damage. They had to keep him alive, but Simplicity do keep him alive. And now Team Freedom take a keep thanks to that bottom lane and the focus that they had earlier on in the fort there. Simplicity might be walking into a trap. Look at Team Freedom. The Stormbolt doesn't connect, but Lutano might have found a target. It's King Caffeine.
Gets out alive. Ball Lightning falling through on the backside. The Dwarf Toss was interrupted with the Sulfura Smash comes down. Instantly the Sanctification, but that's going to be Murden going down. King Caffeine, he's going to walk away. Only one member of Team Freedom going down despite a great start for them. We're not able to get any takedowns.
Yeah, they had the focus, but the Stormbolt initially didn't hit. King Caffeine was able to throw out his Eldruin, and he went back there too. Lutano was starting to work down his health bar, seeing if he could force something like the Divine Shield, the Sanctification. With having those both on one side, you know it's going to kind of be the long haul for trying to get those kills, unless a perfect Twilight Dream comes in, and you can capitalize on the silence from that. They didn't use that there. So Team Freedom, though, they didn't use the Pulse Bomb. They still have it. They still have Twilight Dream 2. They did lose out one of their team members. Simplicity, it's still Team Freedom's game. They're still the ones in control.
I think the one good thing, we actually see ETC Hearthing back there. It'll allow him to defend against catapults, potentially on the core. Stage dive only 15 seconds away, so if anything does break out, Simplicity can slow play it, allow ETC to rejoin the fight. But with 13 here for Team Freedom, see if they try and make a power play. So far, it looks like Zugrug and team. Yeah, I was going to say the Eldruins is out, so he's like, I got to get out of here. I got a boogie. You can see Zugrug is like, hey, guys, he just did his Eldruin. Let's try and fight.
With that boss in the bottom and that keep gone, the rest of the game, that bottom lane is extremely problematic for Simplicity. So far, Freedom haven't been able to get that. Have been trying to see what they can get done elsewhere. Maybe waiting for a bigger talent tier spike. I'm going to use the Molten Core along with the Bruisers here.
Is this keep number 2? against this many melee and sitting there with spell armor underneath there, I mean, it's going to take a big play.
Molten's down. Nobody died. Molten's down. Let's clear out the bruisers. They do get the keep towers. So Freedom with a little less than a 2-level lead as a tribute's about to spawn, with Freedom having the faster rotation of that because of the positional and the map advantage that they've been able to obtain.
They've got it 13, getting close. See Simplicity considering maybe engaging. ETC, of course, is the ultimate factor here. Stage dive is available if they need it. He's trying to clear out the Giants, make sure those don't get any value top. Giants here in the bottom right being picked up by Simplicity in response.
The thing is, that level lead is not going to get any easier for Simplicity. As soon as they get 13, it's time for them to go. They were willing to give up the tribute because they didn't have the 13 there, and that makes a lot of sense. But you can see them moving into position knowing that they almost have 13, and that ETC can get that for them in the other lane and then stage dive in. Freedom, though, recognize this. They're moving back, but Simplicity really want to keep eyes on that bottom boss. They also have the Giants to kind of try to deal with the catapults in the bottom so that they can be out and looking for those picks to get them back in the game.
Yeah, you can tell they wanted to be aggressive there, but because that fort is still standing, it's impossible. They can't chase any further. You're chasing into enemy structures. So they chased as long as they could. They'll look for their opportunity. Tribute spawning, 28 seconds. They get the stun. Pulse bomb's going to be there. Urho is going to go. Oh, Divine Shield at the last second.
Very last second, but still Simplicity are separated out. Cleanse is going to help Zuna get away as the Sulfurous Smash goes down, but Simplicity are yet again on the run. Malthael goes all the way back to heal back up. Tribute spawning in the top. And with this bottom being pushed so far in and so coordinated by Team Freedom that they've had control of that, and the mid too, and their way of using the Molten Core there, Simplicity again have to give up another tribute and try to figure out if they can get a pick elsewhere.
Yeah, you know, Gilly, you made the point a minute ago is that it's not going to get any easier because 16 will likely be here by the time the next tribute comes in. You still have to constantly deal with the catapults in the bottom lane, and you are nowhere near 16 yourself, and the opponent is sitting on 2 tributes as opposed to your 0. So Team Freedom has potential to blow this game wide open or maybe even get more. Yoda might have found himself in a bad spot.
Good defend as the power slide goes through 2. But Team Freedom just used that. They're already on the boss down in the bottom. Nazma's going for the Giants in the top. There's a boss available for the top for Simplicity. But this bottom is a problem. Freedom, though, they don't have Yoda here. They don't have Greymane. This takes some time. But Simplicity aren't heading down. They're just going to trade out on the bosses.
Yeah, and this is, I think, an okay play. It allows them to get a tribute. It allows them to buy time before they can try and soak 16 by the next tribute, put themselves on even footing, get a little bit of experience from that kill, get themselves trade out on bosses. They'll defend against the boss, get 16, hopefully in the process, get a tribute, and then play once they have 16.
Zuna starting the channel as Murden was going in hoping to stop this boss, still taking some time as Zuna gets the tribute. Now it's been grabbed, but Team Freedom are very close to 16. Simplicity are not there. This boss has no keep left ahead of it. Yeah, and you have Molten Core. That's what I was worried about. You can go and get your boss, and that's going to push, but there's a fort there, let alone a keep. And this is 16 for Freedom.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of damage to try and deal with this. They've got to keep an eye on this.
Molten.
They get the stun.
Nice
K1
stun.
Pro was
Nice
in position,
stun.
very much aware of that. They got to turn their attention towards the boss. Hosty has the cursed bullet hit onto him. The boss sitting at about 75% health. They have to take down the boss while simultaneously defending. Pulse bomb on the backside on King Caffeine. He goes down.
Hero goes down so far as Smash goes down along with it. Twilight Dream hits a couple as the silence is there. They've got the Divine Shield on Arrow now. Nazmus gets into the Molten Core. The core is at 85%, 75% as Cassia falls. Team Freedom moving on to the core now with that 16 advantage. The boss is almost gone, but in getting those 4 kills, those 3 kills that they got, Team Freedom will be able to close that out, take out the core, and go up 2-1.
Long-term strategies playing out there, Gilly, because that was done in the first 6-8 minutes of the game when they took that bottom keep out. They just had to find their opportunity later in the game. I think the Yoda pick was unfortunate, but it changed the dynamic of the game. They got the boss, a very slow boss capture on the side of Simplicity, and it bought them enough time. Normally, if they had captured that a little bit faster, they might have been able to defend in the lane a little bit on that boss before Yoda comes back on Greymane. Instead, took them a little bit of time, and they had a defense at their core. And when Molten Core is available, changes things quite a bit.
That it does, using it in a lot of different ways, actually. Being able to clear out your opponent's bruisers so that your bruisers can get that push in and not take any damage on the towers, but simultaneously putting some damage on the towers allowed them to eke ahead in experience. But I would even say it goes back further than just getting that early keep in the way that Team Freedom prioritized that bottom lane, and they were able to get that fort. We saw that Simplicity were trying to make sure that they were defending versus that, but not using everything. But that very melee heavy style composition made it very difficult for them to try to defend versus that, especially since I think it was ETC who had gone down or someone had gotten pushed back to their core, and because of that they were a little bit slow in responding, and losing the fort without even taking that boss just was a constant sore point.
I think the other part is wave clear, and one of the best ways to defend structures going down is to simply kill the minions. You kill the minions, and then all of a sudden, those forts, they hurt. You can't just stand under them. You can't find ways to do that anymore. They hit too hard. And I think that those minions were standing there. They didn't have the range to deal with that. They didn't have significant wave clear. ETC, Tyrael, and, I mean, Malthael kind of at this point, but you have to get into an awkward position to take that down. It's way too much. It can work on Towers of Doom where you don't push into a core and you're just solely focused on team fighting. And there's nothing wrong with this strategy here. But when teams find a way to counter it, it's obviously much more difficult. And Team Freedom found that hole and they exposed it.
Yeah, even Cassia, when you look at some of her counterparts, for